Let's talk about the assignment for this week. Module 4, assignment statement of the problem. So the purpose of the assignment is for you to learn how to apply what you've learned about policy research and analysis throughout the course and the readings. So we're applying basically what we've learned in the first three chapters. You want to conduct the analysis on an issue and policy that you choose through a three-part assignment. So this will just be the first part that's due this week, and it's to determine the social problem you'll write about. The issue that you choose must have at least one policy solution. And what I mean by that is that there's already probably a law or some sort of policy action that is taking place that's attempting to address the problem. So for the other two parts, don't worry about it. We'll deal with that later in the semester. We're just focusing on statement of the problem. So step 1, outline the social problem that you will address. 3 to 6 sentences. No more than 3 to 6 sentences. And it must have at least one policy that addresses it. So I talked about that in the previous slide. So if you look at your book in page 100 under social problem, and I'm going to circle it here or outline it here, this is social problem. There we go. So what is the definition of the problem? Who defines the problem? Who supports it? And who opposes it? And also who opposes it? And list 1 to 2 underlying causes of the problem. So what we mean by underlying causes to a problem, let's think about the March of the Bonus Army. So the Bonus Army was marching in order to get an advance on a bonus that was supposed to be paid out in 1945. And this law was passed back in the 1920s, right around the time before the Depression and after they returned back from World War I. And so when the Depression hit, there were a lot of hungry people, and veterans were one of them, and they were advocating to get an advance on that bonus that was promised to them. So the underlying cause of the problem was the Great Depression and the economic issues that were occurring at the time. So that's what we mean by the underlying causes of the problem. Step 2, identify at least one public policy that addresses this social problem. Again, there has to be a policy that's already addressing it. So look on the resources on pages 109 through 113. They're listed to the right on this page here. Some of those sources where you can find policies on that particular problem. So you need to limit it to a particular area of a problem and have at least one policy solution. So when you say, I want to address the healthcare problem, but what about the healthcare problem? And so you could say that there are uninsured children in society today. So that could be, rather than being broad and just talk about healthcare in general, you're really narrowing it down to a specific area. So children's health insurance. And ideally, there's policy solutions that have been enacted. And for that particular issue, there are some federal and state policies and programs to provide care to children. For step 3, we're identifying power imbalance. And this is where the critical analysis comes in. And you're doing this in regard to the social problem defined in number 1. So as I had talked about earlier, children's access to health insurance. That would be the problem. And so I would look at these questions here and try to answer some of these questions. In the guidance, it says who loses, who gains, who seems to have power, and who seems not to have power. So those are the questions that you would answer in regard to the power imbalance. So you might have a hard time. There's so many social policy issues that you can choose from. I would recommend to use one from the book. And so the following topics and chapters have information and guidance on some of those areas of policy and social policy. So discrimination in chapter 6, poverty in 7 and 8, aging in 9 and 10, disabled people 11 and 12, and so on. So you can see these particular areas that and topic examples that you can focus on. Final considerations. So only part 1 of the only part 1 is due on Sunday. You don't have to worry about parts 2 and 3. So we want it to be a 2-page double-spaced description, not including the page for citations, or what we know as the reference page. We use APA in social work, so use that APA reference format. And you will include a reference page, and remember that doesn't count towards your final page count. And keep in mind that parts 2 and 3 will be due in the last week of class, and that you want to be doing the same topic for those 2 assignments. Okay, so make sure it's a topic that you're interested in and that you'll be interested in throughout the course, and then you can take the time to learn more about it as we go along towards the end of the class. So if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If it's more focused on for you, if you are wondering about a specific topic, feel free to reach out to me, email me. If it's more of a general topic that applies to everybody, please use a policy discussion, not the policy, the discussion forum in the discussion board, the general discussion forum.